Hello, hello, and good night, friends. How is everyone doing? Super excited to be here again with you all. Hey, Chinita, I see you in the chat. I see you in the chat. All cool, cat. How is everyone doing? I am super excited to be here late at night, late agile session. Today, I'm going to be going over definitely two agile ceremonies. I want to go over my sprint retro, which is 1 week due, even though that is technically not possible. But gonna go over that. I want to go over the sprint uh, retro. Did I say retro? I meant my sprint review, then my sprint retro, and possibly the sprint planning session. I I have a ton of user stories packed for my third sprint. So I want to do this planning right. And I don't know if doing it right I'll probably be sleeping if I want to do that right. So we'll see about that. But how have you been, friends? I hope you're having a good night. I am really curious if you are tuning into the stream, why are you tuning so late at night? Probably some late company, probably studying for a finals test. But whatever it is, I hope that you guys are doing amazing. And I hope that you're up for a chatty sesh because like I said, I'm going to be focusing on all the agile ceremonies, which is something that I'm trying to do on Mondays. Locking in on Mondays, go over the ceremonies, and then a little bit more chill for the rest of the week. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna be going over 30 and 5 minute Pomodoro cycles too, just to have the chance to chat with you all and not just be like full blown expo. Like, who wants that? That is so boring. So I'm gonna start the Pomo cycle now. And what I'm going to be doing is just straight up go for the sprint review since it's a little bit late at night. And yeah, I'm going to go change scenes. And do let me know if you guys can hear me okay, because the audio just keeps messing up. So, oh, and I'm going to be adjusting my camera for this. So please, please, please bear with me if it doesn't work like last time. But we're trying something new. So let's just pray that the camera wants to work today. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. All right. That is not too shabby. There we go. All right, friends. So, sprint review. And like I said, super excited to go over this with you guys, especially because time is running up. And hey, Anton, how are you doing? Thanks for tuning in late at night. Appreciate you being here. How have you been? But yeah, just going over the sprint review for the second sprint. And I want you guys to picture something, if you will, bear through this little mental exercise, right? I want to have you envision yourselves as a blacksmith, right? And you're working to make these really cool, really important swords. What is the first step to making a great sword as a blacksmith, right? Well, there are a lot of steps, but probably two very important ones, at least for me. And I think the first really important part is really going at it, creating that basic structure, that mold for the sword. It's really not about perfection. It's really not about, making things super, super tidy. It's more about molding that metal and setting up the right structures in place so that you can work on it, right? And that is exactly what we did on sprint number 2. We focused on setting up all different structures for the agile, the financial, and the energy industry capabilities that I needed to develop to perform at the next rotation, right? And that is super well. But what comes after that? What comes after that basic mold is set up? Well, Then it's about refining, right? You need to shape the sword, give it form so that it can function properly and they could basically take advantage of it at its fullest capability. And that is a little bit of what this upcoming sprint is going to be about. It's about mastery, right? It's about getting in tune with those three core capabilities, but also trying to develop other important ones. For example, communication, right? Super important. So, yeah, I'm super excited about getting started with the third sprint, but obviously we need to see what was accomplished in the second sprint. And that is the end of the little mental exercise. If you were closing your eyes, wandering off to a super sulfur environment, you can definitely teleport back here for now. And I mentioned that there were three core skills that I'm trying to put to practice, right? The first, and I would wager most important one, is agile, because I really want to get better at agile structures and I want to make that my value proposition going forward to different companies. So this is a little bit of an overview. It's not too amazing of a visual, but what it tells us is two important things. The first important thing is that we completed about 50% of the different stories or the features or capabilities that I wanted to develop in this 1 week sprint. And the other kind of unfortunate thing, but I guess you live, you learn, is that if you notice this vertical line here at the center, that was the planned end date for our second sprint, which was meant to end last week. So we are running behind schedule. And the takeaways are: one, we need to catch up, we need to start working on things faster. And the second one is that we now have a little bit of a better gauge of how much output we can produce in 1 or 2 weeks, right? We shot for about 60, 80 user stories. That is kind of crazy. I did move around some stories, so the scope changed. But yeah, we were definitely going to have to cut more stories and prioritize, which brings me to the next slide, Anton. Well, upcoming slide. We're going to have to do some prioritizing. But first, before we get into that, I want to quickly recap what went well, right? From those 80 stories, we basically completed most or the most important ones in regards to agile skills and in regards to developing industry knowledge. So I'm super proud of that. I'm super excited about the different capabilities that I've developed from those two areas. But definitely areas of improvement were finance. I should have, I on my schedule, I have an outline to, on the daily, do some finance exercises, start reviewing concepts. That was on the sprint, and I just didn't get to it because of that output, that workload that was way too hard or way too unrealistic to manage. So that's the most important point to improve moving forward. And then another thing that was kind of a negative is that, hey, Timmy, nice to see you around again. How have you been? Um, for the new people in the stream, we're just going over the 3 agile ceremonies. And right now I'm in the middle of going over how the second sprint went. So the other negative aspect of the second sprint was in terms of other skills, right? This was a sprint. Let me just jump through this nasty ad. There we go. So I was supposed to be focusing on just my 3 core skills, but in reality, I was also working on some other things. For example, communications, right? I was wondering what type of skills I could develop in people management too. And that set me back slightly. I would say the most important setback was, which I'm seeing on my vertical stream. Glad I caught that. I was toying with some ASMR, some outlook overlays in OBS that I'm not going to say they didn't bring me anywhere because I think it could qualify under the marketing aspect or the pet projects of it, but it wasn't the core competencies. So it was a distraction, and I could have prepared more on the finance front end. So that was a little bit of a miss, but also learning. And now, what does that third sprint look like, right? We are going to be basically trying to improve on the foundations that we established on the second sprint, where we're already using agile methodologies, we're already using frameworks, tools that are widely accepted or widely used for estimation, for example. But we're going to be trying to incorporate new things, right? Now, in this mastering phase, it's all about progressively adding new things each time, each week, just going through that foundation, but every time refining and adding more tools to the mix. So that's something that I'm super excited about, just finding new ways of doing things, right? In the finance category, I want to do two things. First of all, we need to catch up on the absolute basics, which I'm not, I think we'll cover in a couple of slides ahead. Yeah, we definitely will. And the second most important things about finance is I want to get practical application knowledge of it. So I either, and this is going to be part of the prioritization, I'm going to be doing some real world financial instrument buying, or I'm either going to develop a dashboard where I can keep track of some economic and financial data points that I want to track just to have a more literacy in the financial world, pretty much. And in the energy industry aspect, I'm going to go over in just 2 slides ahead what we accomplished here. But for the upcoming week, I want to reach out to the people that will help me learn a little bit more about what kind of job I'm going to be doing. And I really hope that their inputs will shape the rest of what that roadmap is going to look like. And lastly, I'm going to create an industry primer. So I really want to consolidate all the things that I've been reading about the industry and put it to use. And maybe it can be one first important thing that I can share with you guys. So I'm super excited about that, and we'll see how that goes. But there's always a but. We have a little bit of a problem here. If we go with the third sprint as is, we're looking at 216 points of effort that I estimated. Super quickly, I used a t-shirt sizing model reference for this. But the point is that is going to net us about 10 working days. So like you said, Anton, I'm going to need to prioritize. I'm going to have to cut some things. I'm going to have to push things or acknowledge that some of the things are going to bleed into the fourth sprint. But that's okay because that is part of how things have been rolling. Since sprint 2, we're working, like, for example, communication skills. It's something that I wish I'd say that I'm leaving for when the time is appropriate, but there are things that I do need to start developing so that when the upcoming sprints roll around, I have some base, some notion to pick up from. So yeah, some things are going to bleed, but it's necessary to cut and prioritize for sure. Hopefully that's going to come around in the sprint planning portion of this session. Now let's see. What were the things that we accomplished in the industry knowledge aspect of the core skills, right? This is the second most important one. Well, maybe the third, but this is where we have some more meat to show. So the company that I'm going to be going to is a leader in the renewable energy space. And they have a very divisional organization, meaning that different specializations or business units work on their own and don't really share information processes with the other ones. So it's very siloed, very structured, and they're structured by the type of technologies that they're working on, right? If you're in an area where you're working with wind energy technologies or solar battery technologies, you don't really get to work with the guys who do gas pipelines, right? So knowledge is very compartmentalized, but they do work in three different business units that kind of cover the organization cross-functionally, and that is origination, which is nothing more than, you could think about it like your sales team, right? The people that go out to clients, industrial clients, residential clients, and see opportunities to provide energy. So that is called a power purchase agreement. And that is like the one thing that you want to work on or you want to look out for in the origination team. Then you have the development guys. The development guys are the ones who basically get the job done or set the structures up once the origination team has established that contract with the client. This is where most of your product and project managers get to work in this area. And then you have business management, or commercial, as some people also call it. Business management is all about managing the P&L. It's about ensuring the financial success of the projects that the company is embarking on. And yeah, that is the basic overlook of how this organization works in a formal or traditional sense. But the most important thing, that was just like good to know as an overlook of what the energy industry looks like, what this company looks like. But the most important thing was to know a little bit more about the culture. And the thing about culture is that it really dictates how companies expect their employees to perform, right? One thing is the things they say, the values they preach, but on the other, you have the actual financial incentives, the ways in which you see day to day that things just act out every day. And you want to be super cognizant of that so that you can improve your productivity and be better positioned to match that culture and be successful professionally, pretty much. So in this cultural audit, I wanted to highlight two. So I went to Glassdoor. I was looking at a lot of very different types of comments and evaluations of the company. And what I found is very stark differences, right? It's like all or nothing kind of thing. On the one hand, you have people who say it's a great company, they provide great facilities, amenities, and it's just overall a really great place to work. And then on the complete opposite end, you have people who say, do not come to this company at all. They really don't care for people. It's a very cost-driven organization. So it's very split. But I would say that about 2/3 of the opinions are favorable, and there is one third of opinions that are really unfavorable. So before I explain what this tells us about the organization, I also wanted to highlight the fact that in the pay breakdown, we see that 90% of the compensation is a fixed compensation or base pay. And what this tells us is that there really aren't many incentives to go above and beyond what is expected from you or the basic functions, right? Basic responsibilities. So that is another important thing that tells you a little bit about how people operate in this company. But anyway, we can summarize or synthesize all this information into two camps, the positives and the negatives. On the one side, we have that this is an organization that has a lot of operational autonomy. And that is because since they are highly specialized, if you're working on one particular type of project, that business unit is going to manage everything about it. And you're not really going to be depending on people on the other side of the company to pretty much do what you got to do. But the counterpart of that is that this is a very, at least from what we can gather and we have read online, it's a very divisional or siloed organization. And the drawback of that is that if you want to perform transformative projects, if there is a new technology that you want to roll out, uh, may that be internally or to customers, that's going to be hard to do. There's going to be a lot of corporate politics that you're going to have to navigate, and it's going to take a lot of effort to get those kind of things forward. Then you have the aspect that it's a very performance driven organization, right? You just do your job, you're going to be good, you're going to be coasting, it's all good. But the counterpart is that they have really rigid processes, so there's not much room for innovation, like I said. You see a lot of comments regarding good opportunities for career development and good compensation. I feel like, from what I've gathered, that holds true for management positions or more senior positions. But when you look at, I don't know if this is the right word to categorize this as, but to my mind, blue collar work, right? Operators, they really get the short end of the stick, it seems. And I've seen some really mean comments like workers being abused and leadership not holding managers accountable for that. So that is kind of concerning. But I guess it's also kind of commonplace in big corporations. I don't know to what extent this is true, but it's definitely something that I've seen before, unfortunately. And to round this out just super quick, I'll say that there are a lot of comments about how cool the campus is. It's a really nice campus. The facility is great. They have great amenities like gyms, like you're taken care of. I guess the counterpart is that they really don't have a strong culture. Allegedly, since all of this tariff nonsense started, or the new president came into the new administration, priorities in terms of how important renewable technologies is, or the mission, the vision to drive that environmental change kind of took a hit. So again, that isn't something that I can validate. It's just what I'm gathering, right? That is why it's an audit. So this is what we're picking up. And yeah, that's a little bit about the industry part of it. So okay, I see that I have about 5 minutes to wrap up finance. I think we're good on time. So, seeing that we are held back in the finance department or the finance skill department, my main goal for this second sprint was building out a roadmap, right? What are the things that I need to develop at a basic level to perform in this job? And what I'm going to be doing is focusing on different weeks on these 5 different elements that I have laid out here. First, I want to focus on just recapping accounting foundations, right? Your basic financial statements like cash flow or the assets, liabilities, equities. Just have a super basic recap of that. That's where I want to focus my attention on this first week of work. Then I want to move over more corporate finance essentials like doing discounted cash flow models, or just having a better understanding of financial ratios, understanding the nuances of ROI versus IRR or internal rate of return. Just more nuanced financial understandings and models. Then I want to start to I want to start doing actual financial modeling, scenario planning, just get more technical and do actionable financial things with that. And on the last 2 weeks, I want to cater that financial knowledge to be a little bit more useful to the industry and to be able to do effective storytelling with that all those data points that you encounter, because you can do all the work, but if you don't really tell a compelling story or summarize the most important things that you found, you're really not getting anywhere in corporate. And since I really haven't done any of this before, like I know my finances, right? But I've never been in a financial role. So I think it's important to be comfortable with these. I also am super excited about reaching out prior rotational professionals who have been in this position to have their feelings about, does this make sense? Am I missing something? So I'm super excited to keep iterating on this base plan for finance. And that's about it, honestly, for what has happened in this 2 1 week sprint. I would say that the next steps are going to be reaching out to the prior rotation professionals. That is going to be super important to adjust and prioritize the rest of the roadmap. Then I'm going to be putting emphasis on starting with financials. And I'm going to start with that first thing next morning. I am super excited to create shareable assets. I know that it's hard to keep track of what I'm doing. And one of the things that I want to do for you guys is make all these things available and to be able to share it to more people so that, I can help others in this process. And part of that is definitely going to be like short form video content, but that's going to happen like in the upcoming sprint. So I'm not too worried about that. On this week, I really want to try to make some indicators, some kind of dashboards, the industry report that I can share with you guys. So I'm really looking forward to that. I want to incorporate new elements, like I said, in both the agile processes, the ceremonies. I want to start not innovating, just incorporating new tools. And then lastly, I know throughout the week, I keep incorporating things that I get, feedback that I get from you guys directly. So I'm super appreciative about that. But if any of this like didn't make too much sense, or if you had any thoughts, I am definitely super, super interested in hearing a little bit more about what's on your mind about all this. But that is pretty much what I have to wrap up this second sprint, and super excited to get started with the third one for sure. All right, now I'm gonna move the camera back to its original position. Hopefully it doesn't crash. All right. And yeah, for the rest of the stream, I wanna do the retro real quick. There are definitely a lot of things that happened in this week. Oh, there we go. That weren't optimal, but we definitely learned a lot. So I think it's gonna be super important to go over that retro. But since I've been working on this for the longest time, I'm gonna take advantage of this little 3 minutes that we have left to grab a little bit of a drink and set up the space for the retro. So I'm just gonna mute my mic for a little bit until we get to that little Pomodoro cycle break. All right, friends. I know I just chatted for like 25 minutes, but that is the end of the first cycle. I'm really happy that you all enjoy that. I know, I feel like it's a lot of my personal journey, but if it is also of use or interest to you guys, that is super amazing. And I am super excited to start working on how to share more information with you guys. But at the same time, it's like, oh my God, I am so cramped up with my backlog and all the things that I need to do to wrap up the upcoming sprint. So I don't know, it's just a little bit of a not conflict of interest, but like mixed emotions kind of thing. Because I super want to like do things like improving the stream or building dashboards and things for you guys. But at the same time, I also realize that I need to get better for my job. So it's just a little bit hard. Definitely want to follow along the financial learning and accounting stuff. Oh, that's actually cool to know, Anton. I will try to think of ways to make it a little bit more, I don't know, like a group learning kind of thing. Oh, nice to know, Timmy. Yeah, I actually have a ton of financial things from like my graduate studies because I did do an MBA, but I just like I'm not gonna say I coasted by it, but I never thought that I'd actually end up doing financial stuff. It's always ironic, like you always end up doing stuff you don't think you'll ever do. Um, so yeah, I'll try to think of ways to make it digestible for you guys because it's like a lot of information and most of it is super boring, not that interesting, not that useful. But there are things that are super important. So to me, the one thing I wonder is like there's different ways that you can go about it, and I wonder how is it that companies actually put them to work. Like what are how do they actually put them to work? That is the one thing that I'm a little bit up in the air about. But I'm sure that as I talk to some of these other rotational professionals or people from the finance industry, because I do have friends from the industry, um, I'm hoping they will give me a little bit of nudges as to what I can do better. So super excited to share that with you guys. Well, thanks for that comment, Nita. I do have a very special person who takes care of my hair, so maybe that helps a little bit. Although it is a little overgrown by now, so probably need to clip it again sooner rather than later. But yeah, what about you guys? How was the weekend? I know this is technically already Tuesday, at least on the East Coast, but I hope that you guys had a good one. I know I was a little bit caught up with work, trying to catch up with the sprints, but I did have quite a lot of fun. Had a little get together with some friends on Friday, and then well, I couldn't do much. I don't remember if I did anything Saturday actually, or if I was just grinding it out for the ASMR stream. Yeah. And then Sunday, I just went out really late at night for a friend's birthday party. But yeah, that was me. One thing that I really want to do is um, I read super quick that so that you don't burn out with work or the things that you're working on, like studying or working, you want to juggle like three different things. And on my project timeline, or maybe just like as a buffer in my sprint, I want to add things like getting back to some musical instruments or putting a little bit more time to sports, things like that. So I'll try to see about that on this sprint, just making a little bit of time for that, see how that goes. My friends already started us on our next cycle, and I'm gonna prep things up here for the sprint retro. I don't know why OneDrive is being a little bit obnoxious and it's not letting me upload my sprint retro, which I kind of super need to just edit the file. If it doesn't upload, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna have to work on Paint. We'll make it work. It'll be all right. But I just really wish this wouldn't be so much of a hassle. I already ran out of my Microsoft subscription, so I'm trying like the online version, just trying to be scrappy about it. But yeah, this, okay, let's give it one more try because it's going to be so much better to work on actual PowerPoint than on Microsoft Paint. Let's see, Sprint Retro already exists. New version. All right, I'm just going to refresh this one more time. And this doesn't really look like it's going to work, so I'm just going to open up Paint. And let's do, I don't know if you guys follow agile. I know he does a lot of his little dashboard things on Paint, so we're just going to pull one from his book. Hopefully it doesn't go like too awful. And let's see now. Yeah, OneDrive crashed, so we're just going to kill that. Tech AI cover this week, so that'll be pretty cool. Oh, Anton, really? Where at? Either AI conference happening all over the country at this point. It's like, I don't even know if it's a hot topic. I don't know if that's fair to say anymore. But yeah, there's bound to be so many. What is the focus? All right, let's see. I'm trying to Sailboat Retro. Just trying to find our template here to work on. And I'm just gonna go with this one. It seems like my internet connection is dropping out on me because everything's taking a little bit to load. Hopefully the stream is still hanging on though. Right, back to the 90s loading time. Hey Gohan, how are you doing? Thanks for joining in the chat. I don't think I've seen you around before. All right, friends, let's make this work however best we can. And you know what? I'm just gonna go super duper quick on my Sprint Retro meta deck just to be sure that I'm not missing anything important because I wanted to go over like the quick data points that you want to touch on, but I didn't have time just because of how backed up in. Okay, so the only thing to keep in mind is that whatever we discuss here, the two or things that are actually worth taking care of should be added to the product backlog, which is actually something that I've been working a lot on just super recently, being more thorough or more determined to start putting things in that product backlog. And that is one thing that I really want to work on this sprint. As soon as issues come up, I want to add them to the backlog. If I start working on something, I want to immediately put it undone because I want to be using these more advanced capabilities from Jira that are going to help with estimating effort, right? So yeah, that is something that I want to start doing. Okay, so let's see. Things that helped us, right, are little tailwinds. Where's the add text column here? Here we go. Okay, so there are a couple of things. Actually, I want to shout out Anton here. Mindset. Because I was really struggling with this is a little bit too big. There we go. I was really struggling with wrapping up my sprint because I always feel a little bit anxious when it's showtime, it's go time, you need to present your deliverables, and there's always going to be something missing, right? So Anton had this great suggestion that instead of thinking of sprint reviews or just when it's prime time to show your deliverables, don't think of it as the deadline, right? If you didn't finish everything, you're cooked. Rather, see it as a check-in point, right? An opportunity to check in with that person that you're communicating with, that you're presenting this file with. And if you've given it your best, there's going to be progress. Maybe it's not the kind of progress that you wanted, but there's something that you're going to be able to show or discuss. And that is the mindset that you want to approach sprint reviews from, right? You don't want to keep your stakeholders from knowing what you've worked on, where you're at right now, because at the end of the day, it's a collaborative session. And it's not about showing, oh, yeah, I've done this, that. You want everyone to give their input. So don't postpone your agile ceremonies, especially your sprint review. And thanks again, Anton, for being there and making that suggestion. I think that is something that I'm going to be carrying forever, man. Like that was so, so important to internalize. And that is why we're pretty much having this stream tonight. So yeah, that was important. Now let's see what else. Things that helped us. You know what? Actually, this is something that I wish I had done earlier in the sprint, but using effort estimation, like sizing, doing actual sizing in Jira helped a lot with realizing, okay, this is something that I'm not going to be able to do in the rest of the day. It's going to take me at least, half of the day. So having that visualization of how long things are actually going to take helped me realize I'm going to have to cut this out of the sprint. I'm going to have to cut this for the review. I'm going to have to, be content with the output up until this point. And that helped release the second sprint or close up the second sprint. So that was something that was also super useful. Being more comfortable. First, obviously, it's a very friction heavy process when you're starting to use new tools. But once you get the hang of them, they can be so, so useful, right? So talking about Jira here, I don't know, let's just call it like Jira workflow. Like being able to navigate the tools definitely helped. And what else? I feel like I'm missing an important tailwind here, but it'll probably come back in time. I'd say that some of the wins, being comfortable, gaining or putting agile to practice. I was super happy about that. Like actually managing my stories, seeing how the epics flow in real time, adding new ones. And right now, when I did the sprint review and I had the sprint burn down of how the different stories were being completed in Jira, having that visualization, I feel like I'm getting there. Maybe this is a little bit of a Dunning-Kruger effect where I'm at the peak of stupidity, realizing, oh my God, I know so much about Agile, but there's definitely so much more to learn. But being at that peak of, oh, I'm starting to get the hang of things. That is a huge step. That is a huge step. I'm super happy about that. Super happy about the progress that's being made, especially in Agile. Definitely in the energy industry too, which is a segue for, I don't know if anchors or risks, but maybe, one thing that did set us back was aiming for, I don't know if aiming for perfection is something I want to put as something negative or an anchor, but it definitely held us back. Trying to get everything out the door for this second sprint hindered us in a bit. So it's okay, right? It's okay. Nothing in life is perfect, and Agile is all about being iterative. So yeah, I would say it's fair. I would say it's fair that we try to aim for perfection. I don't know why I'm blanking out. That is so typical of me when I'm on the spotlight, because I remember I had like 2 or 3 things that I wanted to put on the riffs, especially because I did hit a reef, a risk that could materialize, and it actually did. I think, I think it's coming back. Being too generous or optimistic about the size of what I can accomplish in one sprint, that was actually something that did hit us. So overestimating, I don't know, capabilities, or I'm just gonna go with capabilities. That did hit us a little bit. And this is one thing. So this is another super important thing. The ASMR stream, I lost 2 days. Like, I'm 2 weeks behind, and I lost 2 days working on um a super silly interface. Actually, I'm going to show it to you guys just because I think Anton was the only person who probably knows what I'm talking about. But I spent 2 days working on this silly interface, just like mixing the sounds, the little images, the videos, like so silly. And like, I was happy to do that because it was fun, right? It was a little. I'm not saying you didn't like them. I'm just saying that it was effort that should have not been prioritized. And it took me way more than I anticipated. So that was a risk, right? Doing something that was not a priority and it taking way more than it should have. So we definitely hit that little iceberg there. How could I put this into like super synthesized words? Maybe just like dumb projects, right? Dumb side projects. Yeah, I would say that was. Oh, it was the rain. I did wonder like why is it looking like so low quality? And I did have trouble finding little rain animations that I liked. So maybe for like sprint 4 or sprint 5, I'll or if I decide to do another ASMR sprint, I'll just look for a nicer or less demanding rain GIF because everything's set up already. So it's just going to take me 10 minutes, right? Hopefully, I'm not overestimating my capability, but I don't think it should take me more than 10 minutes to find a GIF, right? Hopefully not. Anyway, I'm glad you liked it, Anton. But yeah, it was super hard. I wasn't too happy with the rain GIF, but it was what we had to work with. So yeah, maybe little side project. We'll see. We'll see about improving it. What else? Let's see. I'm gonna just go over the list of things that we can think about, right? Processes, people, interactions. What am I missing here? I don't know if tools technology is one. I'm just gonna. It's another. And I'm probably missing one more thing here that we can think of. I'm just going to go to my master deck here. Get this out of the way super quick. Oh. Sprint retro. I don't have it open. Sprint retro. People processes. Oh, the definition of done. Yeah. I think that was the same thing that I missed last time. I'm going to close this too. Assumptions and definition of done. Okay, that is actually super, super helpful because for the second sprint, I didn't have a definition of done. I didn't have for the stories. a template, a guideline of what is the goal that I'm aiming for, what are the specific tasks that I need to accomplish to get this done. I'm going to show you guys an example just in case that you're also new to Agile, of what this actually should look like if technology helps and I can find my Jira board. Here we go. So I made this little template where I can see before wrapping up any stories. Let's see if we can see it here. Wow, my internet connection is super, super slow, guys. All right, let's give it a minute. Let's pretend we're in the 90s for a little bit and things take 5 minutes to load. Yeah, it's not here. Womp womp. But yeah, I guess I'll just say it verbally. When you're creating these user stories, right? All the different things that you're working on, you want to have them organized in a way that they have a goal at the very top of the description. What is it that you're expecting to accomplish from these user stories? And oh my God, I can't believe the one example that I wanted to go for doesn't have a description. Oh, here we go. There it is. There it is. It was at the bottom. Okay, so this is the example goal. I want to conduct all Scrum ceremonies in a professional way using best practices to improve the team alignment, estimation accuracy, and predictability. Right. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish with this specific story? And there are frameworks. I'm not going to go over it. This is not meant to be like a lesson in Agile, but you want to have a goal and you want to have acceptance criteria, or at least some kind of activity, specific activities that you want to check off to determine that, okay, if all these check boxes are ticked, then that makes this story complete, right? So having that clarity of the things that you need to get done to wrap up that user story, that helps. That helps with scoping. That helps with not wondering, oh, should I continue to do this? Should I, invest more time in it? No, you just just tick off the box, let's get it done. And if it needs polishing, you just get to work on it on upcoming sprints if needed. So I'll say that, let's see. Yeah, I'll just wrap it up with the definition of done. Now, I want to think, was that an anchor? Because I didn't have definitions of done, or just a little user template for my goals. Or yeah, I'm just gonna put it as an anchor. Not using story. All right, actually what I'm gonna put here is not refining the product backlog appropriately. Because I remember that when we were conducting the product planning last week, and when we tried to do some product backlog refining, I didn't do any of like story effort estimation or creating goals or specifics. So not only was wrapping around and prioritization and actually finishing the stories more difficult, but I just didn't get to get it done. So yeah, now that I've got a hang of it, I'm super excited about being more efficient in this upcoming sprint. Let's see. I like definition of done with quality. Scrum Master advocates for speed and or flow. Product owner advocates for value to the user. Ooh, what does that mean? That sounds like a little bit of a little power struggle, right? You have like competing priorities and then you meet somewhere in the middle. I like that. What would you think of, or what is your impression of the Scrum Masters that you've worked with, Anton? Are they usually like super useful, super beneficial to the team? I don't think I've ever met a Scrum Master yet. So I'm super curious to know what that dynamic is going to look like if I hope that I take part of an agile team someday, like a professional. I don't know how to phrase this. I've done agile work, but not in a professional, like super serious with like a scrum master and like actual coding developers. It's been more like ad hoc agile, right? So I'm super interested in like looking forward to that day of meeting a scrum master. It seems like a super I don't want to say daunting role, but it is kind of I don't know, it's like a coach, right? It's like an agile coach. And it just seems like you have to be someone who has some experience under your belt to do that like truly goodly. So we'll see. I would have put one more win. I know that oh, I totally know what felt amazing wrapping up the ASMR interface. That should be like a total fail, but I remember when I was doing that, probably the first 6 hours, I was just completely laughing, hysterically laughing about the stupidity of it, just how like absurd it all looked. And then as the hours kept rolling by, it was just more and more and more tedious. And I was just like, oh, I want to get this done. I was so mad. But when I actually got that done and could rest, that felt so good. That felt so good. Um, let's see what else. Just to wrap this whole retro up, I'm gonna say that mm, having clarity or core skill foundations. Have a little bit more clarity of the core skills. That definitely feels good too. Gives more clarity. It feels like, okay, we're actually making progress towards the most important things. So I feel like I feel good about this retro. Now I want to think of the two most important things that I can gather from here, this experience. I also want to look back into how the whole 2 week process went and see what I can add to the product backlog that's super meaningful. Let's see. So for the anchors, right, which is the main thing, or at least intuitively, I would look into the anchors for opportunities. Like if you had blockers, I feel like I've already taken care of them. I'm already doing story effort estimation. I was just going over the product backlog, like the priorities to wrap up the sprint. I feel like with that new mindset, I'm not going to be necessarily aiming for perfection. Like I was debating, should I stream super late at night or not? But I'm just going to try to do things, even if they're not perfect. So I feel like they are taken care of. Oh, this is one thing. So one thing that I would like to add is what is one specific thing that I'm going to incorporate into the Jira workflow for the upcoming sprints? And I'm specifically thinking of starting my stories, the exact moment that I start them, meaning that I want to make changes in Jira in real time as things happen. But I don't know if that merits creating a user story because that's more of a habit that I just need to build. It's a bunch of developers and one steps up to be the Scrum Master. Oh, really? I've never had the opportunity to have a professional Scrum Master on my team yet. That would be cool. Okay, yeah. Kind of same. Uh, even though I've only had an unprofessional setting of working with Scrum Masters. Yeah, that'd be really cool. How can we keep the wind blowing? How can we aim more towards the goal? How can we avoid the reef? Yeah. That's the thing. I'm trying to think so hard because we do want to have something actionable from this retro. Um, I think it's a little bit of a mix between the Jira workflow and being more realistic with our capability to estimate effort, right? So what I'm thinking of is I've grown more accustomed to the t-shirt sizing model, right? And if I'm estimating them to take 1 day, well, that probably means that it has a likelihood to bleed into a 2 or more day workload. So maybe one actionable thing that I can do right now is add to the product backlog here. I'm going to go all the way to the backlog. And I'm going to add something for sprint 3. Okay, not there. I want to create it on sprint 3. Sprint 3 backlog, create. Breakdown XL stories. So any stories that I've sized as XL or under the Fibonacci sequence, for me, that's going to be 21 points. I'm going to see if there's an opportunity to break that down into 2 or even more smaller separate tasks so that, I can just have a better gauge of it and I don't get held back from my planning. And now that I'm thinking about like timelines and commitments, I wonder if not super wrapping up my project timeline also hurt because I didn't really stick to this little timeline here that I built. But at the same time, I don't want to overcomplicate things. I don't have that much time to think about all the little activities that I'm going to be doing. So I need to strike that balance. I don't really know how important project management and having these project timelines is in terms of managing the project. I'll probably need a little video. I think that could be something that I could also do. Understand how to better leverage a project timeline. And I'm just going to put that in the backlog, like kind of in a generic fashion. I'll give it a little bit more form probably tomorrow. But I think those are 2 important things that I can definitely gather from this last week. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna start our new break cycle. I think that was perfect. That bled right into our break cycle. And yeah, because I mean it's gonna be impossible to do 216 story points on not even 7, but 6 or 5 working days. That is going to be insane. So yeah, I'll take a look at the XL ones. And actually, I'm just going to take a minute and put some effort estimation into this actual task. I'm just going to give it a 5, I think. A little under 2 hours should be more than enough to get this done. Now, what I'm thinking, friends, is it is super late at night. And if I want to do the sprint planning session, that is going to take, I don't know, maybe 2 hours if I really want to get into the nitty gritty of it. And I don't think it's going to be too enjoyable for you guys. So maybe I'll just leave it for tomorrow morning and I'll make it part of the Pomodoro focus and study cycles so that I can work on it on a more personal level. You don't have to hear me yap for 2 more hours, especially for something that's not super, super useful for you guys. And yeah, I'll just maybe make this a 10-minute break in case there's anything that you guys want to chat, in case that you're wrapping up with any studying, any productivity things. I'll just leave the stream open for 5 more minutes so we can hang together. But I don't think I'll actually get to the sprint planning because, yeah, you're just not going to get too much value out of it. Yeah, so I'm just going to wrap up with, I'm going to save this little image here as our sprint retro. And I do like the two little additions to the product backlog that came from it. Let's see. Twitch, studies. Sprint retro. And guys, this, since we do have 2 more minutes, I'm going to share the little structure that you can use to put a goal in your story description. But first, let's see, which ones are ready to start working on right now? Maybe consider focusing on what's ready to be done. Are you talking about the big stories specifically? Or all of the backlogs? That is one thing too, Anton. Like, for the product planning session for tomorrow, maybe what I'll do before going to sleep is look at different ways I can prioritize and tackle these because I really liked ticking off the boxes like, oh, this story, get it done, next. And you can see the progress, you can check off the boxes super quick. But I also want to be strategic about it. I don't think that's necessarily the best way to tackle things, just going through your like immediately available and shortest tasks. You definitely want to weigh a little bit of prioritization in there too, right? So I'll think about maybe doing that weighted short job first strategy, or maybe I'll look into adding another one into the mix for consideration, just to learn other tools. But I think it's important what you're saying, right? What can I work on right now? Like absolutely no blockers, just automatic, mechanic. It's gonna provide value and just get it done. Yeah, exactly. So maybe in these, I'll give 10 minutes for a focus cycle so that we can work together in whatever it is that you guys are finishing. But I will work on breaking down these big stories and yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind for tomorrow while I'm doing the prioritization. Thanks for that. All right, friends, I'll just start our timer here. I'll mute my mic and hope that you guys can wrap up the night in a very, very productive and useful way. Sharing the goal structure. All right, friends, and hope you have a good one, Anton. But that is actually marking our 10 minutes for the focus, little last focus period that we had here. I hope you had a really good time. I definitely always enjoy your company, and I'm super appreciative of you guys being here. If there's anything that you guys want to see or that you want me to work on for the next stream, definitely let me know. I'm always reading the chat and I'm just super excited about, I mean, this is my second week streaming, and I'm always thinking of the different ways that I can keep improving. I've seen some streams that are super super cool. Like I know that um, mine's a little bit rough around the edges, but also because I'm doing my best with what I have from like freeware or open source software, right? So I'm super proud of where we're at, but I know that there's still room for improvement. So if there's anything that you guys want to see, definitely let me know. Other than that, guys, I will try to leave you with a nice streamer that you can hang. We actually managed to get our first successful raid last night with Anton. So I'm going to try to find another streamer for you guys that we can raid. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for being here. Tomo arigato. And I hope to see you guys soon. Take care and have a beautiful start to your week. Have a good one, guys.